Hi, as you mentioned, I'm Brad. I come from Outfront. I'm a brand strategy guy at heart, and I love finding new ways to tell brand stories. And today we're going to talk about literally one of my favorite versions of that, which is reinventing legacy brands. And to do that, we have Amy, who is the Chief Corporate Affairs and Communications Officer from PayPal, and Erica, Chief Creative Officer of BBH. And we're going to be talking about the reinvention of PayPal. And to start it off, we're going to play, I think, if this works, a little video that's going to kind of set the mood. If not...
Did I just create this magical tune?
Hey, Jerry, you know that new sound you've been looking for? Well, listen to this. You see what I did there? I changed the lyrics.
Who are you calling shady?
Oh, like this is fresh squeeze. Give me a break, Logan.
You're not going to sing again, are you?
What? No. You can pay your own way.
Here we are again.
What happened to your curls?
Humidity. Did someone take some of my candles? They're not all here.
You can pay your own way. Pay your own way.
I used PayPal to buy this ticket, and I'm paying it off in 4 payments. No fees, no interest.
You know what else has no interest? Me.
Lawn flamingo. This thing's gorgeous.
Excuse me, what are you listening to?
None of your goddamn business.
You got a weird thing for PayPal, man.
Pay your own way. I'm still in here. This is the only time I get all week.
How many of you are feeling Will right about now? All right, so let's talk about this. So PayPal is like one of the OG brands of the internet. Like they're a pioneer of literally the concept of e-commerce as we know it. Household name. Long time I always thought about it as kind of associated with eBay. Amy,
It's true.
you've really set out to reintroduce the brand, set out a whole new creative ambition. So tell us, why are we doing that now? Why is this the right time to reintroduce PayPal to the world?
Well, thanks, Brad, for the question. As you said, literally more than 25 years ago, PayPal invented internet shopping and dominated in e-commerce. And so really where we are today is the perception gap. We had such this powerful brand where that's only how people knew us, by the button. And so today, you can pay anyway, your own way, right, Erica?
To coin a phrase.
We really had an opportunity to reinvent ourselves, to transform. And what we did was we leveraged the insights and the vast data we have on the 400 million plus customer base. And what we found was we need to stay true to our core, which is having the control and flexibility to pay however you want, the safety and security, which we knew was huge and powerful. But then how do we reinvent this brand with something that would not only they'd remember us by, but we'd start to change consumer behavior. And so that's where the fun kicked in. And from there, we just took the concept, gave it to our partners at BBH, who crushed it.
So Erica, all right, so you get this big, hairy, ambitious brief from your client. How do you find the crux of that, right? How do you define the problem that you're actually trying to crack here?
I don't think it's a problem that we've never seen. It was sort of like, how do you make a brand that's invisible, meaningful to people again? I think where it started to get tricky is what you were touching on, where you guys used to have a very meaningful brand, and it sort of devolved into just being a button, like a means to an end in a sort of more meaningful commerce journey. You would just click on it and no one was thinking about it anymore. And there's a million buttons that anybody has to choose from. And so that was like from button to brand. But then I think that's where you guys tend to have fun with us, where it's like, do that at warp speed, do it in a huge way. And by the way, make sure that whatever idea you come up with is flexible enough, because we're not totally done with building our product yet. And so the story might change after you develop your idea. So it was a hairy one.
So that's all. That's all they're asking for.
That's it.
All right. Okay, so I remember, I I started seeing these like clever billboards. They're saying like you're pay for a blowout pal, like near a salon, or digital signs in the subway. You're pay for it all pal. And then all of a sudden, I'm starting to see Will Ferrell singing. That's not who you think of when you say the word fintech, right? What made him the right choice, Erica?
I think the talent brief was actually crystal clear in that you guys wanted to go very big, right? If you think about PayPal, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's like 2/3 of the people like in the world have used PayPal in their
Largest
lives.
payment provider online today.
Okay,
Yep.
so there's this inherent
So it's big.
ubiquity. It's
Globally.
big. So first and foremost, they wanted a celebrity with the same scale. So that's not a ton of people. Somebody at that scale who's beloved. So then you get down to like the Pope and Shakira and Will Ferrell. Okay, so those are our top three.
How many of you had Pope and Will Ferrell
And then-
in the same sentence on your bingo card?
And then we wanted funny because it's PayPal, right? And this sort of notion of paldom and trusted and beloved is at the core. And listen, obviously the Pope is loved, but Will Ferrell is funnier inherently, and so that's sort of where we went. And I don't know if you're familiar with e-scores. I'm sure you are, but Will Ferrell's e-score, and that's a measurement of familiarity, was 99, and it doesn't get much better than
You don't have to
that.
introduce Will to anybody.
Well, and the interesting thing here too is we wanted something that not only we could scale, but we could continue to build on, right? Because we are a global brand. So we launched this last September, and I think it was a gross understatement to say that this, speed was of the essence. We're talking from concept to production to launch months, less than 6 months, would you say? Or like,
Yeah, with a couple pivots along the way.
with a couple pivots along the way. And so it is record time, but we had this immediate popularity that hit as soon as we launched the spot. And only 6 months later, we were ready to go at it again and take it globally. So we just launched a new PayPal Everywhere ad in Germany. And interestingly, we
Does
sat
Will speak
down with the
German?
team.
Will does speak German fluently.
We sat down with the team and said, is he still the right talent? Is he going to resonate, with the German consumers like he did with the US? And the answer was yes. And that is very, very hard to do when you're looking at a campaign global like this.
Fun fact, there is a designated Will Ferrell voiceover actor in German that we used
knew?
for this.
Who knew? Okay, so I wasn't going to ask this, but I am, because we're talking about how integral he became to this entire thing. Like, clearly, is he doing more than just reading the scripts you're giving him? How is he a part of this process? What was he bringing to it?
So the process has evolved in a very positive way, even since we first started. So, he was brought on as a co-creator, right? That we out of the gate. But I think there's like learning on both sides from the agency as well as him. Like, what does that actually look like? He's not used to responding to shifts in product functionality that come in at 9:00 at night, and we need to revise scripts, right? So like, there was a lot of learning. So the first one out of the gate, and by the way, when we enlisted him, he came with his writers from SNL, as well as the director that he had met at SNL. So like, he surrounds himself with people who he knows will get the best out of him, which is, part of what makes him so spectacular. So anyway, he now is really part of the writing process. We went from just him sort of punching up our scripts to now tonight, actually, I have a writer's room with his writers to talk about the holiday work.
Well, and you can see it in the, when you look at the
feels
ads,
authentic.
doesn't it? Right. And a lot of those, not a lot, but several of those lines were literally impromptu. He landed it and we were like, yes. And fun fact, so we brought him in to meet with our 25,000 employees. And I had a full brief for him, like, here's how I think the stage moment. And he's like, actually, do you mind if I do my own thing? And I'm like, okay.
Let me just
It's
run with
internal.
this.
How bad can it be? He gets up there and literally delivers a stump speech on how he's taking over as PayPal CEO. People were crying. Hot tubs in every office. That's where I do my best work. I mean, it was unbelievable. But at the end of the day, the moment that I was like, he's into it as much as we are, is when he said his mother loves this ad spot more than she does any movie he's appeared in. Now, whether it's true or not, but he's quoted in People magazine saying such, so we'll take it.
So, Amy, you are clearly pleasing Will's mother. I think that's amazing. So, all right, now, so he's become an integral part to this whole thing. Literally, the world knows who he is. Enormous star who speaks German, apparently.
No, he doesn't.
All right.
But
I love that you went for it, though.
I'm
Yeah,
there.
let's keep
I'm-
sticking
his
with
voice
it.
So
double does.
credible. You're so credible. But so he's this global celebrity. How do you balance that incredible personality and persona with your brand in a way that it doesn't become just about Will Ferrell, but actually becomes some kind of cool symbiosis, and you don't lose the PayPal-ness of it?
And that really was the hard part and what we had to be hyper focused on, because he is a big personality. He gets on there and he just delivers. But I think, you know, when you see the moments where he's tapping to pay, he's cutting in front of someone in line, you know, and the lyrics. And Erica could talk about that, but honestly, the song choice nailed it. Because, I mean, literally my 10-year-old and his friend were singing the lyrics. I can guarantee you they had never heard the song prior to that ad playing. So that's how we brought the value prop to life.
I think the line that explains it all is in the second spot at the end, where the woman in the grocery store says, "You've got a weird thing for PayPal, man." And this has always been about Will's relationship with PayPal. So it's not just about Will, and it's not just about PayPal. It's about this like weird love affair between the two of them. And if you like look back to the first spot, like he's literally singing to his phone and almost making out with it, right? So it's always been this balance between the two of them and their relationship. And I think that's been key. And it's something he knows that's where the humor needs to come from.
I think that's great. Actually, I do want to ask, because you mentioned this with the song, have you looked to see if those songs have increased in popularity, the original versions, since?
No, but we definitely have
Wouldn't
seen.
surprise me.
We've seen a lot of interesting things on social media of, you know, people having their own iteration of it.
Do you have a favorite?
I'm going to decline to comment.
Fair. So, look, we've covered a lot of ground. We're doing great on time. And for everybody out there, because except for the people who actually work at PayPal, right? Like most of us are not PayPal, and most of us are not working with Will Ferrell. You've gone through this process super fast, as you said, like at warp speed. So what lessons have you learned about modernizing a legacy brand without losing what made it special in the first place, that you might apply to another job, to another gig, or as advice to people who might be looking at their brand and wondering, all right, where's my opportunity to kind of refresh this brand? Amy.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to hear Erica's view, because mine is one that's very internally focused, which is out of the gate, we had 1 million people apply for the new debit card within the first month, which, talk about success metrics, right?
Totally.
It was clear that the message was pull through was there, which was super important to us. And again, it hasn't even been a year yet, but it was definitely that behavior was really exciting to see early on.
I think like one lesson, and you know, we do a lot of reinvigorating of legacy brands at BBH, and something that we definitely entered into this relationship with was make sure you understand sort of the bones of the brand before you just walk in and wholesale reinvent, because PayPal didn't need a reinvention, they need a reinvigoration. And it's very different. And to understand that trust and familiarity and accessibility are all core to what this brand stands for, it informs the work, it informs the talent you choose in everything you do. So that was like a big one. And I think it's made the work resonate with everybody the way it has.
That's amazing. So you alluded to this a minute ago, that you're already beginning to think about where it goes next.
Yes.
Where does this go next?
Amy doesn't even know, so I can't tell you.
Please do
well,
tell.
it is holiday focused, and there's new functionality for the brand that we're going to be showcasing. You know, and if there's any celebrity on earth that you would want in a holiday spot, I think everybody would agree it's Will Ferrell. So we're very excited. There's
Can we bring back the elf costume?
There's a lot of good ideas on the table.
I actually really don't know, but I mean, how would you not go right there?
but from your point of view, right? So you said like we're still working on the product. We're still bringing new thinking, new functionality, new capabilities into it. Have you found that as that has progressed, that this idea still has lots of room to hold those new things? How much does it have to continue to morph based on where PayPal is going?
Not much. I mean, so the Germany spot. Germany, first of all, PayPal is the most beloved brand in Germany across categories, not just payments. But Germans it's a very cash-centric culture. They use cash for everything. And lots of brands have tried to get them to shift consumer behavior. So in the Will Ferrell spot, it was all about the benefits of tap to pay. It's more rewarding, it's easy, and it's secure. And that really hit the mark with the German consumers. And so literally same thing out of the gate, debit card adoption, tap to pay functionality, usage up tenfold. And so I think it's just finding the right value prop in each of these markets to hit on the capabilities that we're bringing to our consumers.
Sounds interesting. Like what part of what you're talking about there is like, how do you have kind of a global idea that's able to flex in a way that it needs to address the needs of individual markets? And I see you nodding your head vigorously.
No, I mean, we have local insights and creatives on the ground in Germany and even in the UK, right, to help make sure that, each of these moments that we're putting Will in feel authentic to that market. For example, we have, and you should watch it because it's one of the funniest spots in my opinion. Maybe it's just because I don't speak German, but it's a very funny vignette with him haggling at a outdoor market. But again, because that is something that's very common in the German market.
Is there anything that you really wanted to be a part of this campaign or any of your original ideas that didn't make it in that you can share?
Yes, 100%. We so badly in the first iteration, I don't even know if you know this, wanted Stevie Nicks to be part of it. Well. And we tried, but I guess she was busy.
And is there anything you were like hoping to see that didn't get to see?
I would say the Stevie Nicks one was something. Yeah. We had so many ideas for social that we weren't able to execute, but instead we thought, you know what? Let's do something even more fun. Let's take the decades of content on PayPal's social media channel. Let's wipe it clean. And literally come out with, so like, don't say a word, we wipe it clean, and then we post our first piece of content, and it's the Will Ferrell teaser, and people are like, what the hell's this? And then from that, and it was perfect too, because we were doing a brand refresh. Right. And we were every meeting like, okay, how do we do that when we have all these other assets, the old assets are in market? I was like, well, there's one way we can do that. So killed two birds with one stone.
All right, we're almost at time, but I want to ask one more thing. So you've both mentioned how you've like gotten really interesting feedback you've heard from different people. What has surprised you about what people have fed back to you? Because it's one thing to put something out in the world, but then what you start getting back, and what's like the favorite, like the best thing you've heard from somebody about the work you put out there?
So for me, it's like unanimous people's favorite moment in each spot is this little kid Logan. And
lemonade stand?
The lemonade stand and now the airplane. So we've kind of created this PayPal universe with these recurring characters, which is something that, Will and his team contributed. So thinking about ways to Easter egg Logan moving forward.
Logan is a legend. I think for us, it's just been so fun to be a part of. And I think, our employees are into it. We hosted watch parties across all of our sites globally. We made it an event that everyone felt a part of. And I mentioned, the like one little fact about my son and his friend who have never heard the lyrics of this song before and find themselves singing it. And you have people that like are pinging to be like, oh my gosh, that Will Ferrell commercial. So when that happens, you've created something great.
Yeah, I always knew if my mom called me about something she saw randomly that I happen to work on, like, oh, it's working.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you guys. Like, I'm a big admirer of the work. I'm new in the sort of media side of the business. I saw some nice out of home there. I'm trying to help. I love the idea of how it can help tell stories and bring it to life, but you've got to have a good story. And I admire the work that you guys have done to sort of, like you said, you've found something authentic to PayPal. You've added this voice and been able to kind of use that voice authentically. And I think you guys have really kind of nailed that balance. And it is a lot trickier than it looks. I can sit here and tell you, like for anyone who's ever tried to do that, that finding that balance and hitting just that right note is very difficult. And I really think you guys nailed it. Congratulations.
Thanks, Brad.